Who can't talk for 5 minutes on any subject? Okay, so it's great to see everybody again. This is probably my favorite conference. Oh, I got 3 seconds out of that. Okay. So anyway, Austin Wireless, just as a quick reminder for those who have never heard of us, or if you've heard and then forgot, we are a hotspot-based network in Austin, Texas. Austin's the capital of Texas. We started about 8 years ago now. The reason why we got started is sort of topical. We got started back in 2002 because I didn't like to see Wi-Fi evolve as a service that was only available for pay in Starbucks. Right? So if you remember back in 2002, that was sort of like the big news. Starbucks was going to have Wi-Fi, but you'd have to pay for it. I knew that Wi-Fi technology was simple enough that it didn't have to be charged. And also, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I didn't want to have to go to Starbucks to use Wi-Fi. I wanted Wi-Fi to be in bars where you can have a beer, or anything. It doesn't have to be associated with coffee. Well, 8 years later, we now see that Starbucks, at least in the U.S., is now doing it for free. All right? And so that has really kind of brought us back around to our reason for being. When we first approached our venues, the businesses that wanted to have the Wi-Fi, they were concerned about not being able to compete with Starbucks, right? I mean, every coffee shop is in fear of Starbucks opening up across the street from them. So providing these coffee shops with a reliable, free Wi-Fi service helped them be competitive, right? Because Starbucks charged for it. Well, now that Starbucks is free, a lot of the businesses are freaking out. And just 2 days ago, the Los Angeles Times published an article about some coffee shops in Los Angeles and San Francisco thinking, well, if it's free at Starbucks, we might as well just get rid of Wi-Fi because we never liked it anyway. Right? So that's an important thing to consider, that we can't always depend on coffee shops having Wi-Fi since they've had it for the last 8 years. They may change their mind because in many ways, for a barista, having Wi-Fi in a coffee shop is a hassle. So one of the things that we've been doing over the 8 years is trying to figure out, well, if the Wi-Fi is free, what else can we do for the venue to make Wi-Fi relevant? And because we weren't charging the end users, we had to charge the venues. And by charging the venues, we were forced to constantly talk to the venues to find out why they should have Wi-Fi, right? And so that kind of puts us firmly in the camp of the splash page people. I know that many of us are pro splash page, and some of us don't like the splash page. But if the Wi-Fi is going to be of use to the venue, right? If they don't want it to be a hassle, but they really want to get some value out of it, the splash page helps the venue communicate with their customers. The splash page also helps you collect an email address so that the venue can send them coupons or discounts or news or the calendar for that particular location. And that adds value. So anyway, later on, I'll be at the freemium panel later on this afternoon, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about how to keep Wi-Fi relevant to the venues, even though Wi-Fi is free at Starbucks and people can go just as easily to Starbucks as opposed to staying in their coffee shop. Okay. One last point, we have just over 400,000 registered users now. It took 8 years, but yeah, that was just last week. So thank you very much. Questions?
You have a microphone right there. It's hard to see out there. Please raise your hand comment, please.
Hello.
Thank you.
So having presented the splash page to the customers in the coffee shops, have you extended that offer to the other resources, or are we just conveying a message about the proprietors' services?
Right. Well, you know, the splash page concept has evolved, because even though I'm in the splash page camp, I'm just like every one of you. If I see a splash page and I'm not expecting it and it's not relevant, I'm off it in 2 seconds. Right? So in reality, splash pages can be useless if they're not well thought out. So what we've done is we looked at research as to what people are looking for on the internet anyway. Where are they trying to go originally? And that's really readily available in research. The top 10 things are all what you would expect, which is weather, sports, news, traffic. Then it goes down to film listings and restaurant reviews and stuff like that.
Did you make that a sort of local review?
Yeah, so what we do is we use mashups and dynamically generate that content, and then we intermix the locations with that, right? And so the landing page rotates through 4 things. There's this local stuff, which is based on the research of what people want anyway. One is just a page that's purely about the location, right? And then the other thing is taking advantage of the whole craze of Facebook and Twitter. It's fascinating that the American National Restaurant Association, is a different NRA, a nicer one, it seems every week now in their newsletter to tens of thousands of restaurant owners talk about how they can use Facebook and Twitter to do word-of-mouth marketing to their customers, right? And this is a very exciting trend, but if you think about it, if you go into a restaurant now and you want to find out about Facebook or Twitter, they usually have to have a sign up. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Doesn't it make sense that if you are seeking the internet in that location, that we just take you to those places? And so that's an obvious part of the landing page rotation.
It's like a sort of reassurance that you're on the internet and you see things like that.
Yeah. So if a restaurant has invested in a web page, a newsletter, an email newsletter, they've invested in a Facebook page, they've got Twitter going, they may even have a downloadable app. Use the Wi-Fi, we think, to connect their customers with all those online resources. Right? When you're doing that, then the restaurant is going to keep the Wi-Fi services, and the more Wi-Fi there is in the community, the more readily we'll have it available.
But that's a sophisticated service you're adding there.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
Above and beyond. And so,
yeah.
how do you kind of, you're charging them?
Yeah, and it's great. So I've been trying to tell my friends over in Montreal that they've been undercharging. They're using Wi-Fi dog. The more that you charge, the stronger the relationship is with the business. The tighter that relationship, the more likely that hotspot's going to be around in the future, right? So we've gone from $0 a month to $5 a month to 20, and then we were at 20 in November. But once we started tying in with social media, we're up to $55 now a month for new customers. And what was really interesting is this, and we've always known this intuitively. The less you talk about Wi-Fi and the more you talk about marketing, the more you can charge. And if you think about it, really that's what we want, right? And in the sense that, is it just pure internet access, or are we trying to deliver services across the internet? And as you start
It's an essential component of any future network.
That's
you have to be able to represent something local and something
right. Now, philosophically, providing marketing services for a restaurant, it doesn't feel as good as providing, access to local arts, and that you kind of have to squeeze that in as part of the pitch. But you still have to provide the customer, the restaurants, what they're looking for if you want a network. That's it?
Sorry, I hope that.
I have a question.
Okay.
I was wondering, could you describe a little bit what chipping is?
Chimpit. Okay, so this is like the evil portal, captive portal everywhere. So again, like I said, we are in the splash page side of the campus. We think that's really where all the value is. That's where you're communicating with people. But even with our Wi-Fi dog model, our network can't grow fast enough because our people need mostly to talk to every single restaurant individually, right? And bar and coffee shop. And so even though we've developed a system now where we never have to go there anymore, right? I don't have to crawl on the floor under desks and do Ethernet. I'm tired of that, just like a lot of you are probably tired of that. So, we just mail the router to them with instructions and they plug it in, and that's how our network grows. But still, we're dependent on a conversation, sending the router, and then they plug it in. So what chimping is just a little application that runs on your laptop. And wherever you go, any hotspot in the world, the application will recognize where you are by the street address, by the business name, and bring up the captive portal for that particular location. And so, for example, this location has been chimped, that's what it's called. And if you had the application, it would come up with it would come up with the portal for this page. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for asking about that. Chimping.